there's a disturbing number of cases where children have died and the mother or the guardian is to blame. And so many times in the end, whether it's that someone gets incarcerated, spends years or decades in prison, and ultimately it's determined that no crime was committed at all. So yeah, it's a heartbreaking case, but not surprising. You've just got these stereotypes about women. Well, stereotypes and the reality of it, that oftentimes women are the caregivers. They're in these sort of close domestic relationships. And when you've got a tragedy where a story is concocted that can play on this stereotype, once you get there, then I think it's just incredibly hard to undo that.
Just after midnight on April 12, 1989, Miss Butler, a new mother in Mississippi, experienced the horror of finding her 9-month-old son, Walter Dean, lifeless in his crib. After a desperate attempt to resuscitate him at home failed, she rushed the boy to the hospital, where doctors declared him dead. But less than 24 hours after his death, his mother was charged with his murder, and her first trial, which went on for 6 days in March of 1990, found her guilty and sentenced her to death for the murder of her son. But the case was not lost for Sabrina Butler. She knew she hadn't killed her son, and the bruises left on his chest, which the prosecution claimed came from her punching the infant, more likely came from her frantic attempt to save his life. She persisted in putting her case before the courts, and in August of 1992, the Mississippi Supreme Court overturned her guilty verdict on the grounds of improper comments made by the prosecutor. Finally, in December of 1995, a new trial found that Miss Butler was not guilty, and after spending 33 months in jail for a crime that had never even occurred, she became the first woman ever released from death row in the U.S. Today, Miss Butler is married to Joe Porter and is raising her 3 other children. Unfortunately, Sabrina Butler's case, while not common, is not the only instance of injustice created by the justice system. In fact, nearly 2/3 of all female exonerees, those people, like Miss Sabrina Butler, who were later found innocent of crimes they were originally convicted of, were originally found guilty of a crime that never occurred. This often takes the form of the death of someone in a woman's care, such as a child or elderly parent. At 43%, just under half of women exonerees were convicted for the death of someone in their care, a much higher percentage of women than men. While our nation has moved far beyond the separate gendered spheres of the 20th century, continuing attitudes, especially concerning women's roles as caregivers, persist and affect the rate at which women are convicted of crimes that were never really crimes at all. This disparity actively hurts the chances that a woman will be released from prison, even if she is innocent. One of the easiest ways to prove innocence is by re-examining DNA evidence, but while the cases of 25% of men exonerated relied on DNA evidence, only 7% of women presented DNA evidence of importance in their post-conviction trials. For crimes that never occurred, providing DNA evidence to prove innocence is often much harder. Defense attorneys, prosecutors, and judges must remain cognizant of the bias towards convicting women for crimes against those in their care in order for the justice system to move towards a better version of itself.